Добрий день, шановні колеги! Рада вітати вас на вебінарі освітнього проєкту «На Урок». Good evening, my dear colleagues. And today we are going to speak with you about using graphic organizers at the lessons of English, both online and offline. So first of all, I would like to see how how well you can hear me and how well you can see me. So if you are ready for our webinar, can you please put a sign or a plus in your chat box answering the question, do you use graphic organizers at the lessons of English? If you use them, please put a plus. If you don't use them, please put a minus. Yeah, naturally, I can see lots of pluses, and I'm sure that you do use graphic organizers, but maybe today I will tell you about some tips or ideas how you can use them more effectively. So first of all, a few words about myself. My name is Ганна Дудіч, and I'm a teacher of English and a vice principal at Taras Shevchenko Lyceum in Kropivnitsky. I'm a Global Teacher Prize 2017 Top 50 finalist and Global Education and Skills Forum speaker, and an ambassador of a number of educational projects, where actually I learn regularly about educational innovations and share these innovations with you with the help of educational project Na Urok. So what are we going to speak about today? First of all, we will discuss what is a graphic organizer. Then we will see how we can use graphic organizers at different stages of the lesson. Then we will discuss with you how we can develop key language skills with the help of graphic organizers. We will speak with you about working online and offline with the help of graphic organizers, and we will discuss with you the benefits of using graphic organizers. So first of all, the main question is, what is a graphic organizer? Let's take just the simplest definition from Wikipedia, and a graphic organizer is a pedagogical tool that uses visual symbols to express knowledge and concepts through the relationships between them. They can be of different types, and the main purpose of a graphic organizer is to provide a visual aid to facilitate learning and instruction. You all know that our students, our modern students, they are children of the digital age, and they mostly learn through visuals, and they need visual support to learn better and to remember the material better. So that is why I consider graphic organizers to be very helpful for teachers of different subjects and of English as well. So how can teachers use different graphic organizers? There are different types and ideas. First of all, at different stages of the lesson, you can use graphic organizers at the beginning of the lesson to motivate students to see how they are feeling at the beginning of the lesson, to do our famous formative assessment to see what they already know about the subject. You can use graphic organizers to develop different language skills in the middle part of the lesson while you are practicing different skills. You can use them to organize peer work and group work, and also for project work. If you speak about different stages of the lesson, you can use graphic organizers like before instruction, for example, to activate prior knowledge, during instruction, while reading or listening, or to prepare for speaking or for writing, for example. Or you can use them after instruction to summarize and review, to prepare for a test, for example, to see how well they understood grammar. And we will discuss with you now in details all these different possible types of graphic organizers. So, first of all, the beginning of the lesson. We usually start our lesson with a kind of a warm-up activity or a lead-in activity. So here are just two examples. The first example of a graphic organizer is a typical one which probably some of you have used. It is called KWL chart. For this, you need to draw a simple table on an A4 paper, sheet of paper, and label the columns in the table in the following way. The first column would be K, meaning what I know. The second column, W, what I wonder or what I would like to learn. And the last column, L, learning, what I learned. At the beginning of the lesson, you ask tell your students what the topic of the lesson is, what you are going to learn, and you ask them to fill in the first and the second columns. In the first column, they write what they already know about this topic, and in the second column, where they write what they would like to learn about it. And later on, at the end of the lesson, when you already presented the new topic, when you discussed it, you ask your students to fill in the last column, and they put down what they learned already. So it's a kind of formative assessment, and it helps students to see if the lesson actually met their expectations, if they learned what they were hoping to learn at the lesson, or maybe something will be left for the next lesson, for tomorrow, for next week, and they will discover something else for themselves, or maybe they need to learn independently to answer their questions. So it's a really good analytical tool to do this kind of lead-in activity. If your main purpose at the beginning of the lesson is not to see what they already know about the topic, but to check how they are feeling, you can use the second type of diagram, which you can see now on the screen. So it can be the mood chart. And I put a screen from Canva where you can conduct an online group activity. On top, you would put on top of this graphic organizer, you can put the names of the students, and you drop the link to this group activity made in Canva to the chat box in Zoom or in Google Meet or in any other video conferencing tool that you are using with your students, and ask them to drag the tag with their name into corresponding column and show how they are feeling in the column with the corresponding emotion. And it works really great. It doesn't take a lot of time, and you can see right away how your students are feeling at the beginning of the lesson. You can do the same type of activity at the end of the lesson and see how their mood changed during the lesson. Maybe you were able to make them feel better. And after the lesson of English, they are feeling happier than at the beginning of the lesson. And also, I would like to tell you that you can do the same activity not only in an online format. You can print out the same kind of graphic organizer and do this activity physically in class, asking your students to put a tick, for example, in the column which belongs to the feeling that they are experiencing right now, or just write their name in the corresponding column. So it's up to you to choose what kind of activity you would do, online or offline. So you started your lesson with the help of a graphic organizer. Now it's time to move on. It's not a secret that most of us teach in mixed classrooms. And in our classrooms, there would be some students who have got really top marks and who are really experienced in learning English and who are doing their best. There would be some students who have average knowledge, and there would be some students who are actually struggling and who would like to use some help. from their colleagues, from their classmates, not only from the teacher. And when we are preparing the tasks, we usually try to differentiate our instructions. So let me present you this graphic organizer, which can be used by teachers to differentiate instructions. After writing the first task with your students, with any group of students, you can put down the list of your students in the class or in the group, not in the alphabetical order, but according to their level of achievements. And you can put down the names of excellent students, students who did their task in top and got the top marks in the first row. Then below would go students who have completed their tasks on grades 7, 8, and 9, like the good division, the good part. Then below average, 5, 6, and 4, and then the beginner, 1, 2, 3. If you write down your students in such an order, then it will be easier for you to choose the groups for differentiation and give your students tasks which will be suitable for the purpose of the lesson. So if you choose your groups horizontally, then you will have homogeneous groups of students of different abilities, and thus you may provide those students with tasks of different levels of difficulty. And each group and each student in such a situation will have their own situation of success. Because those who are beginners, who have low level of knowledge of English, will do the task which they are capable of doing, and they will succeed, and they will be happy. At the same time, those who have excellent marks, top marks, they will have a more difficult task, and they will not be bored while doing the task. And everybody will be busy at the same time. But if you want your students to work in mixed ability groups, and if you want your stronger students help those who are struggling with their English, then you would choose type 1, where you would have one student from each ability level. So there would be a student with excellent marks, a student with good marks, a student with marks below average, and a student with beginner level in one group. And you would ask your students, your strongest students, to help their classmates who are struggling. And all the groups will do similar tasks, not of different levels of difficulty, but at the same time, you will see that your stronger ones are acting as your teacher assistants and helping their friends. And students are learning from students, and everybody is engaged, and everything works fine. So you can see that graphic organizers can be used not only to teach students, but also to help teachers. So we organized the middle part of the lesson. Now it's time to move to the end of the lesson. What about homework? How can we use graphic organizers for homework? Well, one activity which I tried with my students is called the homework choice board. It worked really great, and my students enjoyed it. And this choice board, of course, can't be used at every lesson. Sometimes you need just to give your students practice exercises for homework, but it can work quite well at the end of the topic, when you finish the unit and your students have learned some vocabulary already, they know some grammar that you studied, and you want to give them some choice, and they want to feel independent. They will be making their own choices. You can, of course, modify this table. You don't need to have as many slots here as you can see now on this example table. You can put different types of tasks here on the table, depending on what you have taught your students, on what they have learned. So let's look at some of the examples. One example, read a news article about some current events and write 10 interview questions you would like to ask one of the people introduced in the story. Or draw a word web with 6 new words you have learned recently and think of 5 words related to each of them. Or choose a picture, record a description of the picture and send it to your teacher and make sure that you bring a copy of the picture so that you can we can guess in class what you were talking about, or whatever. So there are different types of tasks. And as I said, you can modify the tasks. You can make them simpler so that your younger students would be able to choose the right homework task for themselves and do this task for the next lesson. So it works really well because students, while doing this kind of activity, they have the feeling of ownership. So they are responsible for what they have chosen, and they will not be able to tell you that, oh, this task was boring, the teacher gave us the boring task. No, because they chose the task themselves. They have a choice of like 4 or 8 or 16 or whatever options, and it's up to them to choose whatever they are interested in. So this is another graphic organizer which can be used for homework and, of course, modified. And you can see the link below, the link to on the same page ELT WordPress blog, where I took this activity from, and they have got lots of other interesting ideas. So please go ahead and check that blog for English teachers. You will find a lot of information there. Now, imagine that we are studying any kind of topic, and you are practicing developing reading skills or listening skills or speaking skills. What kind of graphic organizers can you use for that? I put developing reading, listening, and speaking all together into one slide because I think that some graphic organizers can be used for any of these purposes, to develop any of these major language skills. Let's take the first one, my favorite one, Venn diagram. It's a very popular kind of old diagram which is used to find similarities and differences between two ideas or two things that we are studying. It can be used, for example, while reading. When you are reading a text and there are 2 characters and you need to find something similar and different between these 2 characters. Or when you are reading, for example, with your children, a text about British traditions and you want to compare them with Ukrainian traditions. You use this Venn diagram, and on the one hand, the students are using the text from the textbooks, and on the other hand, they are using their experience, their knowledge of our Ukrainian traditions. So the idea is you draw two circles which overlap, and in the middle part, the students put all the similar ideas, which so everything which is similar between 2 people or 2 ideas or 2 things or whatever. And on those parts which are opposite, which do not intersect, they put the differences which they find between 2 people or 2 ideas that they are reading about. To develop the topic, you can also use spider maps, where in the center, in the middle, the students would write the idea or the topic, and then on the spider's legs, they would write the supporting things, or supporting arguments or ideas which they found in the text which they are reading, or in the text which they are listening to. It is good for developing, for example, listening skills when you are telling them that, okay, students, you are going to listen to a text about London. Please use these spider maps to put down everything which you can hear about this city. And they may just very quickly put down all the ideas which they can hear from the text. And then they will be able to report back to you, using this spider diagram and just using the ideas which they put down. You can also use the wheel, the topic wheel, where in the middle you put down the topic, and on these flower petals you put down all different ideas. You can put down the question words there: who, what, where, when, and the children will have to either find this information in the text that they are reading, or listen to and try to hear this information in the text that they are listening. So it's up to you to decide how you are going to use these diagrams while practicing reading, listening, and speaking. My other favorite diagram or graphic organizer, which I quite often use with my students, is a group voting tool from Canva. In Canva, there are a lot of tools for group work, a lot of graphic organizers for group work, and I will talk about it in details a little bit later today. But this one works very well for developing speaking skills. So let me explain to you how it is done. So when you go to your Canva account and you go to the section group work, group templates, you can choose this template for group voting. In the middle, you put down the question that you would like your group to discuss. For example, we were reading a text in our textbooks about modern cities and about life in skyscrapers. So my question was, would you like to live in a residential high-rise building which has got like 100 floors or whatever? And there are only two options, yes and no. And students, so I drop the link to this voting tool into our Zoom chat, and I ask my students to choose the position and very quickly jot down the explanation why they have chosen it. Only like 1 or 2 words, and then speak up and explain your idea. And you can see a screen from the lesson where my students put down their ideas, why they would like to live in a residential high-rise building, or why they wouldn't like to do it. So if you are not conducting a lesson online, if you are working like face-to-face in school, you can also use this kind of template. And actually, you don't need any technology for this. When we are at school physically, I usually just divide the blackboard in half and write down on one part yes and on the other one no, and ask my students to stand up and take the position. And then they would usually like line up in 2 lines in front of the blackboard. And it's also kind of a physical activity for them to stand up at the middle of the lesson and move a little bit and choose the position. And then they need to explain their choice, why they have chosen yes or no. And I can limit them to 1 or 2 sentences if I want them to do it quickly. Or I can set a time limit, like explain it in 1 minute, and they would do it in 1 minute. And then as they explain, they sit down. So it's a very quick activity where they not only practice speaking, but also doing some movement, which is really good for the students who are sitting all the time. And in such a way, you can practice speaking and practice some physical activity. So the next type of graphic organizers are the organizers which can be used to practice writing. It is not a secret for teachers that very often our students do not write draft copies. They, when we ask them to write an essay, they would just sit down and write down their ideas and give them back to teachers, and that is all. but actually they do not spend time planning their writing. I suggest you introduce them these graphic organizers which can help them plan their ideas. The first one, which is very simple, it helps them divide the ideas into 3 basic paragraphs: the beginning, the middle part, and the end. So whenever you ask them, for example, write an essay about your typical day, so ask them to write a draft copy on such kind of graphic organizers, and then they will not forget to write it using paragraphs. They will see how many sentences they have got in different parts of the essay, and everything will be organized. The second type of a graphic organizer, which you can see now, is also taken from Canva. It is called Planning an Essay. And here you can see different sections, like main question that they would like to discuss in the essay. For example, the advantages and disadvantages of using public transport in my native city. Yes. Then main argument. What argument would be for or against this question? Then different activities or different words which can be used for introduction. Grammar, keywords. So what grammar would they use while writing this kind of essay? Because they need to understand clearly. If they are writing, for example, about their last holidays, they need to use past simple. If they are writing about public transport in their native city, they need to use present simple. So keywords. First of all, before you start writing, put down all the keywords that you need to use in your essay, and maybe some synonyms, or how you, in order not to repeat yourself in different paragraphs. Yes. If they are writing a topic with writing an essay with their personal opinion, it needs to be supported by something. They can write about research, like why do I have such idea? Where did I take these data from? Maybe from some source on the internet, and of course conclusion, and all different other supporting interesting things which they can use while writing or planning an essay. This kind of diagram can be used by students of like 9th or 10th or 11th form. Of course, the simpler one would be more suitable for students of the middle school or even the elementary school. Can you use graphic organizers while teaching grammar? Yes, sure you can. I have got such an idea for you. Why not use this step-by-step graphic organizer? Usually when we are teaching complex grammar, like, for example, passive voice, we need to explain a kind of algorithm to our students. So how to change, for example, sentences from active into passive. Very often we can find such type of tasks in our textbooks. So rewrite the sentences from active into passive. How would you do this? Usually I explain my students that there is set of steps that you need to take. First, find the object of the active sentence. So they can put it like step number 1, find the object. Yes. Then step number 2, make it a subject of a passive sentence. Yes. So they write step number 2, and where you have got details, you can put down examples or draw something. So whatever, it's up to you to decide. Another grammar topic which can be used with or explained with the help of this graphic organizer is how to choose which conditional sentence to use. 0 conditional, first conditional, second conditional. So you can also put down like a step-by-step instructions to your students, or you can ask your students to read the rule in the textbook and write, filling this graphic organizer themselves. Write down like step-by-step instructions, and in this way they would understand the rule better because they will process it. They will try to understand each step of the process of writing a sentence using this or that grammar structure. It is also very helpful, and it helps students also to understand grammar deeper and to look for examples and to see how to use different grammar structures. Can you use graphic organizers while teaching vocabulary? Yes, sure. From old school experience, usually when we ask our students to write down vocabulary, we can picture such a notebook where there would be several columns. In the first column there would be a word, in the middle column there would be a transcription, and then in the third column there would be a translation. But this is boring and not always effective. I would rather advise you and your students to use graphic organizers for vocabulary, for teaching new vocabulary, where the words will be organized according to the topic you are learning. Because when you are asked to learn the words about one topic, then you can see this structure. So you can see now a group mind map, which can be used for this purpose from Canva again, or you can see a typical like old school paper version of this kind of graphic organizer, where in the middle there would be the topic that you are learning, and then there would be like subtopics and then the words. And you can see a screen from the vocabulary notebook of one of my students. And the student organized the vocabulary according to the way which was suitable for him, and it was like individual work. We were talking about means of transport and traveling. That was like the general topic, and this student organized the words into these subcategories: public transport, kinds of traveling, and also he made some marks like using verbs or using some other parts of speech or whatever, in order it was useful and productive and effective for this very student. The other student may have organized the words into in his vocabulary exercise or notebook in a different way. The topic would be still the same, transport and means of traveling, but a child would organize the vocabulary in the way which seems meaningful and logical for this child, because we all have different thinking process, and what seems to be logical for me may be completely misleading for somebody else. So give them the words and the idea of this mind map, and ask them organize the words in the way they like. And if they need translation of the words, of course they can put the translation there, and it's up to them to decide. Now, another way of using graphic organizers is to work with projects, to prepare project work. My favorite graphic organizer for doing project work is a very simple Kanban board for project work. So what is a Kanban board? It's actually a table divided into 3 columns. The first column would be a to-do list, then the second column is in progress, and the last column is done. So when you start any type of educational project with your students, you put all the stages of the project, all different parts of the project, and all information related to it in the first column, to do. You may also set the deadlines. When should each stage of the project be done? I usually use a Padlet tool for this kind of activity. And you set this Kanban board as the background for your Padlet board for your students. You give all your students the access to this Padlet, and as we can move all the posts on the Padlet freely, as the project goes on, you move different stages of the project, different posts related to the project, from the first column, which is to do, to the second one, which is in progress, when you have already started fulfilling this or that task related to your project. And when the task is finished, you move it to the third column, which is done. And it helps you understand where your students need help, and where they have, on which part of the project, on which stage of the project they are working quite well, and they don't need any extra attention from your side. So it helps you facilitate the project. And as all the stages of the project are moved to the last part, which is done, you see that your educational project is complete, and you can come up with like the presentation of the project, and you ask your students to present the project. So it's a great interactive tool with really simple instruments like Padlet, which is very easy. And this interactivity, it makes sense to students, because they see also that they have their ownership of the project, that you are not the main person in the project, but they also own the ideas, and they are responsible for meeting deadlines, for completing all the parts of the project. So they take responsibility for doing their educational project. Now, how can you use graphic organizers when you are teaching online? I found a really great resource in Zoom. In Zoom, there are a lot of templates for message boards. So, you know, most of you use just a regular whiteboard while teaching in Zoom. And you can use also ready-made templates to organize different kinds of work. You can choose from a great number of templates already available. And when you click the share button, this template opens on the whiteboard, and all your students have access to it, and they can participate in just filling in the table and writing down their ideas. You can see these instruments, Zoom instruments, which are they are typical for everybody. So you need to choose the last one, entitled Whiteboards. And when you click on it, you will see all these possible templates and choose one of the available templates suitable for your purpose of the lesson. So here are some examples: graphic organizers from Zoom, which I used with my students. I haven't tried all of them because there are a lot of templates, but I have tried some. One of them is called a storyboard. It can be used while, for example, preparing for speaking. You can give your students a topic and ask them to choose pictures to illustrate each idea related to the topic. And in the section called description, ask them to write down some words or some sentences connected with the topic they are going to present. It can be done individually, or it can be done as a group. It depends on your purpose of the task, and it depends on your idea what you would like to do further at the lesson. Then the next one, already known to us, Venn diagram. In order to fill in this Venn diagram, your students need to look at the panel of instruments, which is situated to the left of this template, and choose a sticker. Place it either in the middle, where two circles intersect, or to the sides, and just click on this sticker and write down whatever they need. if they want to compare two ideas or two things. For example, you can see a screen from one of our lessons. We were reading about two museums, one in the USA and one in Great Britain, and we were comparing these two museums. What can you see there? What can you find there? And so on. Then the chart that I have already spoken about, Know, Wonder, Learn on KWL, which you can use at the beginning of the lesson. It is also available online in your Zoom whiteboards in templates. So the students again choose a sticker from the board of instruments to the left and place it either in the first column or in the second or in the third. And then it will be one collective KWL chart for the whole group. And then you will compare their expectations at the beginning of the lesson and the results at the end of the lesson. So speaking about another tool, so we have already discussed graphic organizers in Zoom. Where else can you find graphic organizers online? I have found quite a lot of graphic organizers in Canva. You can use graphic organizers in Canva while conducting an online lesson in Zoom or in Teams or in Google Meet, in any video conferencing tool. You go to your Canva account and you need to choose one of the two possible like groups of templates. These kinds of templates can be situated either in the section called Group Work, where you will find different templates for organizing online interactive group activities, or Brainstorm Whiteboard. This kind of activity would provide you the template to share your screen for collective brainstorming. So you choose the option Share a Link, copy the link and share the link to the template you have chosen in your chat box with your students. The students will click on the link and access the board and start working together. If they have the Google accounts, they can sign up with Google, Gmail, for example, and just start collaborating all together. And while sharing the screen, you will be able to see the work live. So as they are adding some ideas to these graphic organizers, you will be able just to see who is writing, because they will be reading the name of the student, and you will see what they are writing. So it works really great. You can also share the link as homework, and then the students who were not able to participate live will be able to add their ideas after the lesson, because this kind of graphic organizer will be available for them asynchronously. Okay, so let's say that you are teaching in an old school regular classes offline. Where should you find templates for graphic organizers? Of course, there are tons of templates, free templates of graphic organizers available online, and you can just Google and search for the organizers that you need. But I advise you to follow the link that you can see now, and there you can see the whole pack of different free graphic organizers. They are free to use, free to download. They are very well developed, and some of them are very simple, like a spider diagram, and some of them are quite funny, like this ice cream cone. You can choose the diagram that will be most suitable for the age level of your students, and just work which will suit for the purpose of the lesson, yes, for the skill that you are going to develop. Print them out and use them during the regular class with your students. Or there is another variant. You can use the PDF version of these graphic organizers and place them in the learning management system that you are using if you are teaching online. So you have different variants. My advice, I usually print, if I'm teaching offline, I usually print some blank copies of these graphic organizers and keep them just in case in my classroom. I usually have some blank copies of a Venn diagram, which can be used practically for everything, or this wheel diagram, which can be used to develop the topic, or this brainstorming map, where you just develop different ideas of vocabulary related to the topic. So I usually would have like 5 copies of blank diagrams or graphic organizers in my class, and if we need to brainstorm some ideas, I would give them to our groups of students, and we just start working with them. It is really helpful to have them at hand at any time. So let us sum up our webinar for today, and what are the benefits of using graphic organizers in the EFL classroom. First of all, graphic organizers help students organize their thoughts, because very often our teenagers have got so many thoughts and ideas in their heads that they just need some help organizing them, putting them in order. It helps our students understand the relationship between different ideas, the relationship between grammar and the written text, for example, the relationship between different parts of the text, the relationship between different parts of speech, for example, whatever. So in general, relationship between different ideas. And also it helps them visualize complex information. If something seems to be very difficult for them, try to find the graphic organizer that might help them make things easier, and they will be thankful, and you will be happy that they understood the material. So thank you for your information, and now I'm open to questions. I was following the chat, but I couldn't find any questions exactly there. They were like comments mostly, but no questions. So correct me if I'm wrong. I can see only words of thanks. So if there are no questions about graphic organizers, then probably it is time for us to say goodbye, and thank you for your attention. Дякую вам за увагу і до побачення, до нових зустрічей.